We finally got to see Tidjane Salaun in action in Summer League. How did he fare? Plus, Brandon Miller shows up as well. We'll talk all about it today, plus this.
And Ish Smith doesn't count. With all due respect to Ish Smith, he was literally about to retire, and that doesn't count.
You are Locked On Hornets, your daily Charlotte Hornets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free and available anywhere you get your pods, and that includes YouTube. Check us out there. Subscribe, hit like, do all the YouTube stuff that all your favorite YouTubers would tell you to do in the past. There's Doug Branson. Find his Substack, everyhornetsboxscore.com. Listen to me on WFNZ, Walker Mail, every weekday from 12 to 3 p.m. Wes and Walker, Sports Radio 92.7 FM. Got another win. Hornets just don't lose in the Summer League anymore. I don't know what that's like. If you aren't undefeated in the 2024 Summer League sesh, then I cannot relate. The Hornets beat the Knicks 94-90. Got a little close at the end. Thank God they smoked a bunny, but still they win 94-90. And there's lots to get to, but the most anticipated question, there were two. When would Tidjane Salaun make his debut? And how much time, how much run? Would he get any run? Brandon Miller, would he show up in this Vegas session? Both happened. We got to see both here, Doug. Let's start with the rookie. It's the first time we've ever seen him in a Hornets uniform. How do you think he fared his first ever action, donning the purple and the teal?
I'm really curious your thoughts on this because I didn't see you tweeting a ton. I thought he impressed me a lot. I was surprised that he didn't start. I was surprised that he only got 14 minutes. I think the former makes a little bit of sense when you think about, all right, you lose Bryce McGowan's from your starting lineup from the Cali Classic, and you're gaining Brandon Miller. So Brandon Miller's going to be automatically in the starting lineup. And Brandon Miller's probably only going to be around for one game, and so there's plenty of time to start Tidjane Salaun moving forward. But the more surprising thing was that he only got 14 minutes. The more surprising thing than that is that he was able to do so much in those 14 minutes, scoring 8 points, getting 7 rebounds, running the floor extremely hard. I think it's one game, so I'm really trying to hold back as summer is for feelings, but I am trying to, keep from going off the deep end, and saying that he's like Giannis light. But, I mean, the way the guy runs the floor, hits the Euro, so aggressive, offensively, I would say he's not the Greek freak yet, but there are echoes of freakiness.
Yeah, I did see that tweet from you. I did not watch this live, so I watched this back earlier this morning and went through it. So that's why I wasn't tweeting for the people. I apologize to the people if you were at the edge of your seat for my take.
Hey, listen, man, I love it. Make people wait. Anticipation.
Edwin McCain and just your own little song. I love
that.
Hearing
wasn't
you
my
sing
own
the last
song.
couple
I'll
weeks.
look up who the artist was. That is not my own song. I can't take credit for that.
So first about the 14 minutes and not starting, in the interview I had with Charles Lee, he said that he was going to come off of the bench. So it wasn't, or basically said he was going to make his debut, but that they were going to have to be real choosy with his minutes because he's coming off of an injury. And Doug, in that interview, I don't know if anybody else caught this or if it was, big to anybody else, but had the laceration, and then also he got banged up twice getting drafted, and then even after he was selected, there was a little bit of an injury there from Tidjane Salaun. Charles Lee said he got banged up. So just a couple of minor things in tone, according to Charles Lee, that he was enduring, but does go out there, and they said they were just going to have to be careful with his minutes. So I'm not shocked at all. In fact, this is what I anticipated. If he was going to play, it wasn't going to be very much. I think that's the answer to that question. As far as how I think he played, I do think offensively trying extreme, both ends of the floor, trying really hard. Great. 110% effort. We knew that he was going to do this. Gets out and runs extremely well. That's also something we knew. If I were to take one thing offensively that I thought he did the best, it was just hitting the gas. And the one transition bucket where Xavier Simpson finds him, Just a beautiful dime, by the way. Like, that Simpson pass was on the money, and I'm growing to love Simpson more and more. But just a beautiful pass for Salaun, who calls for it and hits it running, right? It's almost like a wide receiver calling for the ball on a go route. I know I'm going to beat my man. I haven't beat him yet, but I have enough momentum. I'm going to beat him. If you hit me here, I'll finish. Just hit the target, and that's exactly what happened. Crashing for an offensive board. Love to see the activity. Doug, I do think defensively, if we're to take something away, it does feel like he doesn't exactly know where to be a lot of the times. And so if you're taking the first performance from Salaun and saying, what are some of the things that will get Salaun on an NBA court in the regular season, and what are some of the things that will keep him from seeing the NBA court in the regular season? The defense and knowing where to be, I think that's something that I'm still going to need to see improve throughout plenty of time in Summer League, plenty of time through preseason, and honestly, plenty of time in the regular season, right? Nobody expects him to start once we get to the opener, but maybe the second half, we'll see exactly how much time he gets, and maybe even a little before. But getting out and running, crashing boards, defensive activity, maybe not knowing where to be all of the time in position, but is there, right? Is paying attention. One time you could see him trying to find his guy and just didn't have the greatest vision, loses him in the corner. And then I think the defense starts to break down. But yeah, like overall, thumbs up for me. Really like what I saw from a young prospect.
Well, then if he's losing guys in the corner, then he's ready to start for this team last season, right? Yeah, right. Look, the game was moving quickly for him on defense. I thought his footwork on defense, though, was solid when he got one-on-one matchups. There was one particular one at the end of the first quarter where he hung with a guy and forced a mid-range jump shot that went begging for New York. So, yeah, I mean, and then there was another instance where he did lose a guy on a back cut from the corner, but he was able to recover. That guy missed the layup, and he was able to recover and use those long arms and big paws to knock out a defensive rebound that the Hornets were able to gather. A couple of things to clean up. Anticipation was a song in 1971 by the great Carly Simon. That's one.
Okay, yeah.
You mentioned gas. He can hit the gas. De l'essence is gasoline in French, de l'essence, and he was de l'essence all over the court. I loved it.
He got that sounds like de l'essence Salaun.
De l'essence Salaun. Right. That's what I'm saying, man. And it was exciting to watch him play. He only played 14 minutes, yet like some of the biggest memories I have of that game of him calling for the ball, getting ahead of everyone on the fast break. And by the way, he ran well on both ends of that. Like he was getting back in transition on defense, filling the gap well there too. So that was great to see. One thing that surprised me about Salaun was his awareness off ball on offense. I mean, he cuts really well, and he was open for several baskets under the rim in this game, but the passes, there was one from Brandon Miller that zipped in there and was off. There were a couple that they just didn't find him there, but he was cutting and he was open under the basket. So I think his awareness and his IQ, like there's a lot to grow there, but there's some things. Here's the thing, like this is all about expectations. If you expected him to be sort of Noah Vonleh or Kai Jones, he wasn't that. Like I think he's more prepared than I thought he was, and yet yes, like as you said, there's a lot of room to go before he's like ready to start for the Hornets.
Oh, for sure. There are lots of time also before we get to that. But yeah, I picture Salaun, Doug, like a bunch of corner setups, whether it's drive and kick to Salaun in the corner, whether it's you have the ball at the top of the key and then he just snakes his way on a back cut and somebody finds him and he's big enough to catch the lob. Like, I just feel like the baseline is going to be where he lives, man. That's where he's looking for property, corner, baseline, not extending much further than like 5 feet out from the baseline towards the top of the key. And then if we're running in transition, of course, he's going to be, all over the place. I think that's fair to see. And the other thing I'll take away real quickly, big, man. We knew it watching France, but he is a tank. He and Brandon Miller, who also, the things I took away, like just writing in my head, mental notes, beep, boop, beep, beep, beep. Holy hell. There's a lot of size out there. Brandon Miller and Salaun together. Doug, I don't know if you took that away. Like, Brandon at one point felt like the tallest dude on the court. Stevens and Banks, even so, being right there. Like, it looked like Brandon and Salaun were every bit as tall as the centers, whether it was Banks or Stevens out there.
Well, yeah, I mean, Summer League there are a lot of tiny folks out there. Like I say, it's going to be a different thing when we get into preseason. But yeah, I agree. Salaun looked big out there. Josh Lloyd, host of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball podcast, who was actually in Vegas, saw Salaun and said, basically he was calling BS on the 6'9" evaluation of Salaun. He said he looked more like he was 6'11". And the thing is, like, if you're Salaun, you probably do, because he is so skinny, you probably do want to be more thinking, oh, I'm 6'9", having draft scouts think you're 6'9" rather than 6'11", because
I didn't even think he looked skinny though, Doug. Am I wrong in that? Like, I thought he was.
Well, he would be skinny if you were thinking he were like center height, like he would.
Yeah.
So I mean, would you rather be evaluated? That's what I'm saying. Would you rather be evaluated as like a properly sized 3 if you're trying to get your draft stock up, right? I mean, would you rather be evaluated as a properly sized 3 but I don't think he's a 3. I think he's a 4, and he's got to put some weight on.
Yeah, some strength will come, but overall, thumbs up on Salaun. I think better than I expected, to be honest with you, or like above it. And I'm happy with what we got from his Summer League debut.
And look, there are a lot of games to play, man. I mean, there's going to be some ups and downs. There's going to be some bumps in the road, but good debut, aggressive, looked like he belonged out there. And when you're talking about a guy who we didn't know a ton about and is a guy that's viewed as a major project, I think it was a great debut. I think that's all you can really say. And I think you're right. The team has to be focused in year one on putting him in situations where he can be successful, because like there's going to be a transition for him, right? Because he was with his team in France, he had a lot of free reign, and you saw that in the tape. He was taking some wild shots for Cholet basket. And he took a couple of wild shots in this one, some step-back threes that were air balls that I knew were coming. Like, his shot selection is wild at times. And so, I think it's going to be a little bit of push and pull of, like, you want him to be aggressive, but at the same time, you want him to do things that are – because, like, that's the thing that killed Kai Jones. It wasn't that Kai Jones, like – oh, well, if he had just done this a little bit more, he would have been okay. Or if he had just done that a little bit more, he would have been okay. It was the fact that they were asking him to do things that played to his strengths. And he was like, nah, I don't want to do that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. There's a difference there. There's a difference. All right, coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Don't go to sleep on the Hornets just yet.
Get to Brandon Miller's game. How did now the sophomore in the league look? Plus, we'll get some other observations and the first game happening in Las Vegas. It's all still to come here on Locked On Hornets. Brandon Miller goes for 23 points in this one, 7 of 16 from the field, took 10 3-pointers, made half of them, 5 of 10, 4 of 4 from the free throw line, 8 rebounds, 2 assists. Did have 7 turnovers, so, not taking care of the basketball as well. But overall, very positive game from Brandon Miller. What were some of your takeaways from, besides the size? Yeah, I thought he looked huge out there, just as a testament to how big he is
muscle
on the perimeter.
Watch.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about muscle watch for me, but I do know the height. The height is there. Clearly a good game for Brandon.
Yeah, for sure. I think the 10 3-point attempts, very important. Charles Lee was doing a sideline interview and said that he's already talked to Brandon Miller about converting some of the mid-range looks that he took last year into 3-point opportunities, because
we love hearing that.
Right, because his percentage is already good. It can get even better, but he needs to take more attempts. The team needed to take more attempts last season, and so Brandon Miller's conversion of those mid-range looks, like the mid-range is something that's great to have and is great in playoff time. There's so many, like, we demonize the mid-range game some, but like all the best stars in this league have some element of that to their game. So Brandon can access that really probably anytime he wants. He's got it mastered. And so now it's about like, all right, regular season, we need to throw up some 3-point shots and get out into transition and try to, while we build this defense up, it's going to take some time to build this defense up. We've got to shock some teams offensively like they did a couple of years ago. And so it was nice to see him throw up 10. It was nice to see him hit 5. And some of those were, very quick into the offense. I mean, you're barely in your set, and you're getting a quick screen from Banks or Stevens, and bam, three-point shot goes up in the air, and he drains it. I mean, that's money. I can't wait to see that in action with, Mark Williams or Nick Richards at the helm.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things, too. You're talking about him going to the mid-range. So he made 5 of 10 3, only 2 other field goals, 2 of them inside the three-point arc. Tough mid-rangers that he settled for, one that he hit, and then one that he didn't. I believe the Hornets still scored on that possession with an offensive rebound. That might have been the Tidjane Salaun offensive rebound. I could be mistaken on that. But, Brandon, a couple times, just forcing some tough shots. But all that to say, I love hearing that from Charles Lee. We discussed that a lot with Brandon's game, and something for him to, work on as his career goes on. And it looks like that's already happening. But you also, of course, as you mentioned, want that to still be a part of his repertoire, because if you do not even get to the postseason, but just the last 6 seconds of the shot clock and the offense is stagnant and you just need to go get a bucket, like Brandon Miller is still, hey, it doesn't have to be the best shot in the world. We don't have enough time for that. We just need some kind of shot making. Do you have it? You do? Cool. Here's the basketball. Let's see what you can do with it. So Brandon, clearly good game from him. And I expect to see him couple games and then he's gone. I asked Lee about that too, just what kind of timeline we'd be on with him. And he said, look, this is important for our culture. Brandon wants to be here. He's not pleased with the work that he's done this offseason. He wants to, as far as the volume goes, he wants to continue that. And we all love it, right? All of it goes towards the right culture. There's clearly a fine line here, and maybe a couple more games and then he's done. We'll see. But good game from him in the debut of this year for sure.
Oh, for sure. I think it's absolutely a great culture thing to just have him around the young guys. You and I think we should mention it. You and I were both Scoot guys, and Scoot isn't playing for Portland. And I don't know how much of that is Portland and how much of that is Scoot. But Scoot's, Scoot's in the street clothes watching his team play, and Brandon had a significantly better year than Scoot did. Man, it's nice to see.
Yeah, it's a weird one.
It's nice to see Brandon out there, and I was all for it game 1, but now game 2, I think particularly if Salaun is healthy and can start, and Brandon gets in the way of that, I think. Then let's keep Brandon healthy. Let's say, hey, you got your tune up. I'd like to move on and look at some of the prospects that are going to need to fight for time, because Brandon's time, and I thought he did a good job of being involved in the game, dominating when he needed to, and then sort of stepping aside. He didn't try to score 40 out there. 23 points, was active rebounding early in the game. You mentioned the 7 turnovers. Look, I wrote about this in Every Hornets Boxscore. It's obvious he wasn't taking it 100% seriously. There was some shots of him on the sideline being goofy, and I think too, particularly at the beginning of the game, I thought there were some possessions where I was like, okay, he's not totally locked in here like he would be in a regular season NBA game. I saw him locked in so many times, yelling at veteran teammates to get back on defense, right? It just wasn't the same atmosphere, it wasn't the same thing. And I decided, look, I'm just going to enjoy youth, because there will come a time, Walker, when he takes everything too seriously, when he is helping the Hornets through playoff series wins. And, he's going to be ultra serious about everything, and there's going to be no more fun to be had. And so I'm just going to enjoy these times of youthful exuberance and joy.
I want to get through some rapid fire observations, because I want the next segment to be, for the most part, about the new signing that they have. Rapid observation number 1. We had the debate about whether I would remember the 3-0 California Classic. Put this on a Post-it note if you want. I will absolutely remember what Xavier Simpson did for this summer league session.
Okay.
Dude, what a good game from him. Yeah. Even just attacking closeouts, making sure that he's chopping his feet, 10 dimes on a dime, creating oh my God. Yes. Thank you, Xavier Simpson. When we get to the 40th anniversary, he might crack the top 40 on my all-time Hornets list. I've appreciated this so much with how many bad point guards that we had. And we came into this as Debbie Downers because KJ Simpson was going to be out and we thought he'd be a good point guard. All the love in the world to what Xavier Simpson means for this team and how everybody else can go and eat. Like Brandon doesn't have to worry about the facilitating all that much. Can do him. Salaun. Like, yeah, I'd tip of the cap, man. Thank you. I don't expect it to go into a two-way or anything like that, but just all the love in the world for what Xavier Simpson did.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think he's played so well that I'm a little worried that another team is going to gobble him up on a two-way or bring them into their organization, because I would love for Xavier Simpson to land in Greensboro, where I think some of these young players in their system will play. And so to have talent at the point guard position like Xavier Simpson would be good just for their development program overall. But I'm afraid he's playing a little well for that. So fingers crossed that, because I'm with you, I don't think he's going to get one of the other two-way slots. But we'll have to see. We've been wrong on those things before. My rapid fire thoughts for me: no Mo Gee in this one as well. I've been on Jake Stevens Island. I was trying to set up some real estate. It looks like the bubble burst a little bit. We'll have to see how he continues to play. But 2 of 6, 0 of 3. He looked really slow, really unathletic. Couldn't play him much.
That's what I took away too. Like lots of. It seemed a little fast for him out there. Yeah,
it's tough. So I think at this point, even if Mo Gee is hurt to the point where he can't play, if you think he's going to be okay, by the time the preseason or whatever, I think you still throw Mo Gee a two-way, So we'll see how it all shakes out, and Stevens may have some time. But look, if you're Stevens, you got to hit. I mean, he took 3 3-pointers. You got to hit every single one of them. Your defense is such that you've really just got to hit your shots, and he didn't in this one. Nick Smith Jr., best game of Summer League so far, and he needed
That's the other one, yeah.
9 of 17, 53% from the field, 4 3-pointers made, 24 points, 4 assists, 5 rebounds. Did have 3 turnovers, and a particular him and Brandon Miller both had it's funny, the leading scorers were also the 2 that made the biggest boners at the end of the game that almost cost them that game. His was the high elbow that he gave to Dwayne Washington Jr. That was a turnover. And so, look, still some issues to iron out there, but God, he found a shot, and I'm so thankful for that.
And also, actually a little bit on the incline with the playmaking. Had some plays, drove, hit Brandon Miller in the corner. Thought that was good recognition. So on the incline with the playmaking, could absolutely go in the decline the next game. But at least we're inconsistent rather than where we were last year, where it just wasn't very good. And that was the consistent part. Also, another shout out, Banks. Thought this was a good Banks game off the bench. He was good, man. Athletic, 3 blocks, getting nasty down there. Really like what we saw from him. So fun game. Got to see the guys that we've been waiting for. Got to see some dudes step up when needed, like Nick Smith Jr. Good point guard game from Simpson. Thought this was a fun watch as far as the Summer League game goes, and getting to see some talented players out there. All right, one more thing, one more segment to go, one more thing to talk about. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Don't go to sleep on the Hornets just yet.
The Hornets went back for more in free agency. How about signing Taj Gibson? Yes, the Taj Gibson from your childhood days. He is now on the Hornets roster. We'll talk about that acquisition coming up next. Locked On Hornets. Doug, you had more thoughts real quickly on Salaun before we go to a very not NBA rookie and Taj Gibson. What you got?
Just one more thought on Salaun, which is that I kind of glazed over his 7 rebounds that he had in 14 minutes. But one of those rebounds was an offensive rebound that he got from the standing position. He didn't jump for it. And it was a contested rebound that he got from the standing position that he put on the floor and yammed it down. So that's the kind of thing that if he can contain his game in year one to that, and what you were talking about, cutting from the corner, being available for what are going to be wide open 3-point attempts, because I don't think defenses won't scout that. They won't have that on their radar early on. If he can contain his game to that, he can be so effective for this team, because this team, I think even if you add Mark Williams back, this team is traditionally has struggled to rebound. And so I think he can be an impact player just in that one particular area, and we could call his rookie year a success if he's a guy that you can call on to get some tough rebounds in particular points in the game.
Taj Gibson, Now your newest member of the Charlotte Hornets after signing a deal, trying to get all of the details here pulled up real quickly. But what do you think about the Taj Gibson acquisition to bring some center depth to the equation here, Doug?
Yeah, so this is something we didn't speculate on the name Taj Gibson, but I think we did talk about how free agency might not be over for the Hornets, and it might be just sort of a name kind of out of nowhere that we haven't been thinking about. And so you get Taj Gibson on a one-year deal, $3.3 million. This was made clear both in the PR statement that came out about it, and also like Woj's initial tweet, that this was about veteran leadership in the locker room. Folks, I can't believe it. All of these things that we've been talking about for years, going out and getting a hot commodity coach, actually getting that coach to sign the paperwork and be part of your organization, and then going out and getting players that fit a particular identity that you want to create, that coach is a part of, and then going out and getting veteran leadership to help you, particularly in a position where you just drafted a guy in Tidjane Salaun who is going to need mentorship. He's going to need help. He's going to need help transitioning from the Euro game to the NBA game. Taj Gibson, the perfect kind of guy to bring into this situation. I just can't. It's like somebody pinch me. I am dreaming, like all of these things happening at once. Walker, I don't know what to do with myself.
Yeah, so he's 38 years old. He's been in the league for a long time. He came into the league in the 2009 NBA draft.
Wow.
So it was a while ago. I like this tweet from Steph No on Twitter. He says Taj Gibson has never averaged more than 13 points per game. Was the 26th pick in that 2009 NBA draft.
Yep. This
This will be his 14th contract. That's a lot.
Amazing.
A lot of deals. 14th contract that he signed in the NBA. But we know what
wait. Bobcats picked that year? You remember? Did you look it up?
No, I didn't. But if that's 2009, then I would expect that to be I'm not going to be able to remember it in time. Just tell me.
It's Hendo, Gerald Henderson.
Okay.
Went 12. And then one pick after that, Tyler Hansbrough went 13 to your favorite team, the Indiana Pacers.
Don't you do that to me. I thought we were past that. Yeah, Taj Gibson, been in the league a very long time. So, yeah, old, right? All for leadership, as you mentioned. As far as what he can do on the court these days, you go back to last year, only appeared in 20 games, played for the Knicks because he is a Tom Thibodeau disciple. If you're to put the Tom Thibodeau players on a Mount Rushmore, Taj Gibson's face is probably carved out in that mountain. Joakim Noah's face is probably carved out. We'll see what some of these other Knicks guys do as they, maybe make a deep run in the postseason. But only 20 games, 16 with the Knicks, 4 for Detroit. You go back a year ago, or before that, I should say, played with Washington, similar role, right? The big guy with veteran leadership for a team that wasn't going to be very good and also pretty damn young. Appeared 49 games for them and played not even 10 minutes per contest. Still is really active, tries to be really active, but of course can't hold up like he used to. More of a defensive presence than he is offensive, although there is some mid-range game to his offensive arsenal. Again, just an older guy, but yeah, you mentioned it. We could do the leadership thing and call it that on analysis.
Right, but see, you just said that as if it's this is a simple thing. This is what you do. And it is. This is what teams like Washington and Charlotte should be doing. It is not what they've done the past couple of years. And this is what drove me crazy, because this was an obvious move to make, and not make it right before training camp, but it's an obvious move to make now. And they weren't doing it because this was an organization that for some reason was trying to gaslight us into thinking that they were some veteran team ready to compete in the playoffs, and they didn't need any veteran leadership. What are you talking about? We've drafted all these great young players, and they're going to go out and win playoff games. It was utterly absurd how they were treating the situation, and I'm so glad that they finally have somebody making sense in there, in Jeff Peterson and this new ownership group that understand. When you have a young team, it's so important to surround them with this type of mentorship and not wait until the very last second. And Ish Smith doesn't count. With all due respect to Ish Smith, he was literally about to retire, and that doesn't count. So I'm sorry. It was too late in the game. Okay. So I'm sorry. That sounds like Ish Smith slander, and it's not. I enjoyed the Ish Smith experience. But I think this is way different, and I'm so happy.
Yeah, no, it's a good time to be a Hornets fan, at least at the beginning of what you hope is a massive shift. That'll do it for Locked On Hornets. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free and available anywhere you get your pods, including YouTube. There's Doug Branson. Find him on his Substack, everyhornetsboxscore.com. You can listen to me, Walker Mail, WFNZ, every weekday from 12 to 3 p.m. on 92.7 FM. We'll comb over some Charles Lee sound bites in the next episode and preview some more Summer League action. Coming up next, or not next, you have to wait a little bit, sorry. But coming up the next day on Locked On Hornets. Have a great rest of your
anticipation.
Mm-hmm.